Breaking news today that could shake up how college sports, college football in particular, is viewed in the future. How will that impact the sport of college football as a whole? How could it impact the Big 12 and some other teams and conferences around the country? We're going to talk about that, what that news is, how this new venture is going to work, and again, how it could impact certain conferences and teams, especially the Big 12, because this is a Big 12 show. Also, we're going to talk about Project Osceola. Some news that came out today regarding Florida State. Looks like we may have an idea when they plan to try to leave the ACC and how they may plan to do it. And we also might have had a hint as to what conference they're going to land in. So we're going to talk about all that on this live edition of Couz's Corner. And we're going to get to all of your chats, as many as possible anyway. And we're going to do it right after I give a shout out to my sponsor. This live episode of Couz's Corner is brought to you by Dutch Miller Automotive, where friends and family pricing means you get the best deal right up front on any new or pre-loved vehicle in stock every time. With brands like Chevrolet, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Kia, Hyundai, Ford, GMC, Buick, and Subaru, the Dutch Miller Automotive family is always growing and ready to put you in the car or truck you've been searching for. Check out our inventory across West Virginia at DutchMillerAuto.com or come in today to the home of friends and family pricing, only at a Dutch Miller Automotive store near you. And don't forget, they do have locations outside the state of West Virginia, so go to DutchMillerAuto.com, see if they have a location near you. Also, don't forget, like this video. If you're coming in, like it. It helps get this live stream out to more people. Share it with your family and friends. Leave comments in the comment section. That helps as well. We already have our super chat. I want to get to that right off the bat. I want to thank you to John Teal. He says, isn't it funny how when the pack was pushing for streaming, everyone called them stupid and desperate? Now, all of a sudden, it's a gift from God. That's actually, John Teal, you must be able to read people's minds, brother, because that is one of the topics I'm going to talk about related to this story is the pack. And I don't want to spoil it, so I'll get to it in a minute. But I appreciate the super chat, John, a $5 super chat. If you guys want to make sure your comment gets read, make sure it gets highlighted, you can drop a super chat, hit the $sign near the chat box where it says say something. Also, before I get into the meat and potatoes of the show, guys, I want to give you some exciting information and news regarding my channel here and a new partnership. This is big, especially for you West Virginia fans, and the majority of my VIP members are West Virginia fans. All VIP members of my channel are going to get access to a discounted coupon code where you can get a 40% discount on a yearly membership to the Holler. What is the Holler? Well, West Virginia Sports Now, a West Virginia media outlet who most West Virginia fans, if not all, know. Writers over there such as Mike Ostie and Ethan Bach. It's a special VIP membership they have where they kind of go deeper into certain stories. They might go into more detail. They just have it's special content for VIP members only over there on their channel. On their website. My VIP members, what is normally a $34.99 a year membership, you'll be able to get it for $21.99. You have to be a VIP member to access this, get access to this code. Once I give you the code, you put that in as you're signing into their site, and you get the 40% discount. You get a 1-year membership to the Holler for $21, and you'll get access to all the stuff the Holler has to offer, and it's something only available to Couz's Corner VIP members. So for you VIP members, I've already put the code in the members only section on my community tab. Go check it out after the show and take advantage of that offer. All right. What's up, John? Thanks for hopping in. Chris Miller for governor, Curtis D316. He is the owner of Dutch Miller Automotive, guys, or at least one of the owners, and he is running for governor. I'm not going to get into politics. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for, but he is running for governor. And he's been really good to me. That's all I can say. Me and Paul both, actually. He's both of our sponsors. But, all right, let's get into this topic. The news has broken, guys, and it came out. Some of you may already know about this because other content creators have done shows on it. Greg Pflugar specifically, Fox, ESPN, and Warner Brothers are partnering to start a live sports streaming service. I'm going to say that again. Three of the biggest media conglomerates, especially when it comes to sports, ESPN, Fox, and Warner Brothers, who owns TNT, TBS, True TV, are partnering to start a live sports streaming service. Okay. Let me pull up the article and I'll share it with you guys from ESPN. And I'm going to give you some of my thoughts on this deal here. I've jotted down some notes to help prepare for this show, and I'll go over those. But let me read the article first, or at least parts of it. ESPN, Fox, and Warner Brothers Discovery announced plans on Tuesday to launch a sports streaming platform in the fall that will include offerings from at least 15 networks and all 4 major professional sports leagues. A one-stop app to view most sports should be a welcome sight for fans who continue to navigate rising costs by subscribing to multiple services. This new sports service exemplifies our ability as an industry to drive innovation and provide consumers with more choice, enjoyment, and value, and we're thrilled to deliver it to sports fans, Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav said in a statement. The 3 companies will each share 1/3 ownership in the joint venture. A name for the service and pricing will be announced at a later date. The platform will include games from the NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, NHL, WNBA, NASCAR, and college sports, including men's and women's March Madness. And I think that's important because we all know most prognosticators, most experts out there consider the Big 12 to be the best basketball conference in America. So if March Madness is going to be part of this, then that means the Big 12 should always have a spot. Okay, I think that's important. It will also show golf, tennis, and the FIFA World Cup. It will include offerings from 15 linear networks: ESPN, ESPN2, ESPNU, ESPN Plus, SEC Network, ACC Network, ESPN News, ABC, Fox, FS1, FS2, Big Ten Network, TNT, TBS, and True TV. Subscribers would also have the ability to bundle the product with Disney Plus, Hulu, and or Max. Now, for me, that's good because my wife subscribes to Hulu. We do have a Hulu account, so I will have access to this through a bundle. We believe the service will provide passionate fans outside of the traditional bundle an array of amazing sports content all in one place, Fox CEO and Executive Chair Lachlan Murdoch said in a statement. The announcement of the bundle also comes as ESPN and Warner Brothers Discovery are preparing to enter negotiations to renew their NBA rights, which expire at the end of next season. ESPN has also been searching for strategic partners as it prepares to launch a direct-to-consumer product in the next year or two. The launch of this new streaming sports service is a significant moment for Disney and ESPN, a major win for sports fans and an important step forward for the media business. Walt Disney Company CEO Bob Iger said in a statement, "This means the full suite of ESPN channels will be available to consumers alongside the sports programming of other industry leaders as part of a differentiated sports-centric service." Now, that's the article. But now I want to give you some thoughts I jotted down because you guys can read the article by yourself. I get all that. But I still wanted to kind of read that out so you kind of have some of the background on it. And that way, when I give you my thoughts, it'll make sense, right? What does this deal mean for college football as a whole? And I don't know that we know that yet, but one of the thoughts I had was, does this mean that what conference you're in won't matter as much when it comes to future TV deals? Now, we know all these conferences, and I'm talking major conferences here, talking power conferences, ACC, they're locked into their deal till 2036. Big 12's deal goes through 2031. I think SEC deal goes to 2034, 2032, somewhere in there. And then the Big 10 deal's around 2030, 2031, somewhere in that range as well. But other than the ACC, all 3 of the other major conferences, sometime between 2030 and I think 2032, a lot of the deals will be coming up for renewal, right? Or extension or whatever. Does this mean that if all 3 of these companies are going to share or joint equal partners in this joint venture, they're all making potentially the same amount of money? At least that's what it sounds like. Then why would they be motivated to get into a bidding war with each other for these college conferences? So we might be at the peak now. We might be at the peak of conference media deals in college sports, potentially. I mean, look, obviously this is brand new. I don't know. This is just a theory I have when thinking about this. Another thought I had, does it expedite the P2 breakaway everyone is expecting? I don't know that it really does. I actually think it might do the opposite. I actually think it may calm the waters a little bit, potentially. Now, I don't think it's going to calm the waters as far as the ACC goes, which I'll talk to in a minute when we talk about the Florida State situation, because that deal's locked into 2036, and they're going to fall so far behind in these next 3 to 4 years that teams like Florida State, they don't want to be that far behind. But for the other conferences, it might actually put a halt to it a little bit, right? I don't know, because their exposure is going to be pretty much the same, I would think. And now the networks also come into play, which I'll get to that in just a second. Also, and back to John Teal's comment from earlier, I bet Arizona State president Michael Crow, remember, he was pushing to the very last second. He wanted to take that Apple deal that Pac-12 was offering, the all-streaming deal that a lot of the other presidents didn't want. I bet he's saying right now, I told you so, when it came to the Pac-12. He's probably thinking about the conversations he had with all the other Pac-12 presidents and ADs, thinking, man, I tried to tell you guys streaming is the way of the future. And well, guess what? The future is here already, just a few months after those schools decided to leave the Pac-12. Boy, if they had just taken that deal, they might be in good shape right now. Because, like I said, Crow wanted that deal, but a lot of the other people in the conference did not. Now, specifically, what does this mean for Notre Dame? That's something I thought about. Remember, Notre Dame, it's my understanding, just renewed their contract with NBC and Peacock. Well, guess who's not part of this deal? NBC and Peacock, which means if you have this streaming service, that's being owned by ESPN, Fox, and Warner Brothers, you have to buy a separate subscription to get NBC and Peacock. Now, maybe people will be willing to, I'm sure hardcore Notre Dame fans will, but will the casual football fan be willing to buy an extra subscription to NBC and Peacock just to watch Notre Dame games? I'm not sure they will. So it'll be interesting to see, does this push Notre Dame closer to joining a conference at some point, which likely wouldn't be any earlier than 2029 or 2030 when their deal with NBC runs out. If I'm wrong about the Notre Dame deal with NBC, correct me, but I'm pretty sure I read that it got renewed through 2029. Now, what does it mean for the Big 12? And I honestly don't know right now because, like I said, I haven't really wrapped my head around this thing just yet. In some ways, I could see it being a positive because, like I mentioned earlier, the streaming service, it might prevent these networks from getting into bidding wars, and it might mean that the Big 12 is more valuable in that regard, right? And also with all of these channels or whatever you want to call them, networks on this streaming service, they're going to always need content. They're going to need as much content as possible. Well, the Big 12 currently has 16 teams. They can give you that content. And also with March Madness being a part of it, which that's where Warner Brothers comes in. We know that they show March Madness games. With them being a part of it, that also means the Big 12 is even more valuable in that regard because they are the top basketball conference in America. And if Brett Yormark can leverage that, might be able to get them an even better deal in the future. And another thing, here's something else I thought of. This actually just came to my mind. I don't think Warner Brothers shows college football right now, do they? What if they want to start? Maybe Big 12 brings in Warner Brothers to chip a little money into their deal that they have right now with ESPN and Fox. Maybe they even add a few teams. I don't know. But maybe they chip a little bit of money in to get some Big 12 content on their network for this streaming service. It's a thought. Who knows? And also, could it lead to the Big 12 starting a conference network? Now, I used to think a conference network was pointless for the Big 12 because we've heard a lot of the other conference networks have not done as well, especially the Pac-12 network, have not done that well financially. And we've even heard people like Bob Thompson on Twitter say in the past that ESPN would like to get rid of some of the networks because they weren't making money on them. Well, now the networks may become valuable, and here's why. Maybe this streaming service offers a free subscription and a paid subscription. And on the paid subscription, it might include the conference networks. You might have to have a subscription for the ACC network, maybe a paid subscription for the SEC network, and maybe a paid subscription for the Big Ten network. So should the Big 12 start a network, would Fox, ESPN, and Warner Brothers want the Big 12 to start a network as well so they can have another potential revenue stream with a conference network, a Big 12 conference? I think most Big 12 fans that I communicate with, not only through this channel but through social media, I think they would be all on board with I think we would watch a Big 12 network. I would. I'd watch the Big 12 network. Would you, Big 12 fans? Let me know in the comments. If you're a Big 12 fan, would you watch the Big 12 network? I want to know. All right. And here's what made me think of that. Bob Thompson put out a tweet, and attached to that tweet was a link to a company called Couz Sports. And in Bob Thompson's tweet, he said the following: for those wondering about the ESPN Fox Warner Brothers deal streaming service, take a look at this ESPN Fox Racing.com venture in Australia called Couz Sports. Might give you an idea of how it might work. Now, when you pull up Couz Sports, this is their Wikipedia page. It says Couz Sports is an over-the-top video streaming subscription service available in Australia, owned by StreamOcean, a wholly owned subsidiary of Foxtel. The service offers sports live and on demand from Fox Sports, ESPN, and Racing.com. The channels it offers: Fox Sports News, Fox Cricket, Fox League, Fox Footy, Fox Netball, Fox Sports, ESPN, ESPN2, Racing.com, and there's several different Fox Sports channels. I'm not going to read them all to you. The original programming that it has, the availability. Here's the availability piece, which I thought was important. Couz Sports offers a 3-tier subscription model: a basic, or a premium. The difference being the number of simultaneous device streams: 1 for 1, 2 for basic, 3 for premium. Couz Sports is available via web browser, mobile app, and on selected smart televisions and media consoles. Now, I know the way they've got it set up is, you get one device, 2 devices, or 3 devices. Well, that's one option. But what if you also offer, hey, here's the free service, but if you want to pay a little extra, we'll also chip in the ACC network. You chip in a little extra, we'll give you the SEC network. Oh, by the way, you chip in this, we'll give you the Big Ten network, whatever. And obviously you compete. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. It doesn't have to be all or nothing, but you get my point. You can pay extra for certain networks. Maybe that's an extra revenue stream for the conferences and for each of these businesses. And maybe also by Warner Brothers being included, maybe the Big 12 can do a separate deal with them, bring them into the fold, have a third media partner, get more money for the conference, and maybe even bring more teams into the league. Who knows? I want to hear your guys' thoughts. Let me get to the comments here real quick. It's hard for me to watch the chat and read these articles at the same time. Outlaw of College Football says, later couch burners going to watch Jason Statham new movie, The Beekeeper, at 6:49 movie night at Carmike. Enjoy yourself, Outlaw. Voice of the Mountaineers 316 says that W needs to accept their role as the future of the reinvented 1AA. Y'all go slam his Bush League channel. Woo! Outlaw's a nut. All right, let me get to some of these comments, guys. Remember, if you want to lead this conversation a way you want it to go, all you have to do is drop me a super chat. It highlights your chat for me, and I'll be sure to read it on the screen. What's up, Jeff Ruff? Jeff Ruff is watching on X. I always forget to promote that. If you're watching this on X and you want to see some of my other content, some of my past content, and some of my pre-recorded content, come to find me on YouTube. Come subscribe to me on YouTube if you haven't yet. And thank you for those who are chiming in on X and watching on X as well. Mountaineer J-Dub says, I love this move. Hey, for cord cutters, it's great. This could spell the end of cable. I mean, heck, the main reason I've got cable is because when I drop it, they jack my internet price up. So I don't know. I don't know if I can do anything about that. But But anyway, another reason I also had to add the sports tier so I could get ESPNU and all that stuff. I won't have to do that anymore. So I'll be able to get just flat out basic cable, the cheapest cable you can buy, and then this service here, which hopefully will be a little cheaper. I don't know. We'll see. Outlaw of College Football, who's a channel member, he's got the badge beside his name. That means he's a VIP member. He will have access to the $21 a year discounted price at the holler if he chooses to use it. He says mid-carders will have to form their own reincarnation of 1AA. At least West Virginia may finally win a natty in a sport that matters. Woo ha 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 ha. Outlaw always talking smack. Samo says, I agree, Couz. I think it means less of a chance of a P2 breakaway. Yep, I agree. I think maybe so. Curtis D says Big Ten and SEC won't be able to break away. States would be filing the Sherman Act in a heartbeat. I think you're right there. I think there will be. Remember, they don't have antitrust exemption. They haven't been able to get that from Congress. And the Big Ten and SEC want the Big 12 part of the picture. Definitely, especially with their basketball. Again, that basketball is really valuable, guys, especially with, as we see with Warner Brothers in the picture, they need that content. Drew Ferguson says, do you think the Big Ten will do a deal where they have CBS and NBC? Well, they do have a deal with CBS and NBC, but CBS and NBC are not part of this new company, this new entity. So Big Ten fans may still have to subscribe to those, I don't know, to those channels or cable service or whatever. I guess is CBS part of Paramount? I think they are. So you can probably get that through a Paramount subscription. So, yeah, I mean, Big Ten fans may have, but, and the Big Ten network might cover that. I don't know. But, yeah, that's a great point, Drew. I don't know how this will affect the Big Ten. Brian McGuinn says, sounds like this is a bundle which includes a network feed and this streaming service. Just jumped in. Yeah, I think that's kind of what it is. This stuff, look, I'll be honest with you. This stuff is way over my head. I don't really understand how it all works sometimes. Technology is not my thing, but I kind of know the basics. But yeah, I think you're right. I think it's going to include the network feed and streaming service as well. So you'll have a lot of on-demand content that you can watch 24/7. Plus, you'll have the live game feeds as well. But what it does is it allows a cord cutter to get games without having to subscribe to cable for these networks. But like I said, if you're a Big Ten fan and you need CBS and NBC, you're still going to have to get that. So that's, to me, I'm looking at the Big 12. All the channels the Big 12 games are on will be part of this. ACC, same thing. SEC, same thing. The Big Ten is the only one and the Big Ten and Notre Dame are going to be outside of that. Yes, you'll be able to drop ESPN Plus. That is exactly right, Eric, because it will be part of this. It's my understanding anyway. And then, but yeah. All right, now let's talk a bit about, again, guys, if you want to support the show, donate with a super chat, feel free to do that. It's a great way to help me keep the lights on. Money goes right back into the channel. And also, it'll highlight your comment. But let's get on with the next topic, and that is Project Osceola. Project Osceola, we heard of, I didn't do a show on it, but others did. It was basically, it's where Florida State has decided to get private equity firms potentially involved in helping to finance their athletic department, which was kind of a shock to people. Something we've not seen happen before. We've even had some people come on social media and say it's not possible or it's not feasible. You can only do that with for-profit companies, yada, yada. Well, according to the news that came out today, there's a workaround there. And also, we found out today some really, 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 really cool tidbits or nuggets of information that tells us some things we've been wondering about. At least I think it hints us. It doesn't come out and tell us directly, but it hints at some things. It hints at, number one, what is Florida State planning to do with this money? Two, I think it gives us a little bit of a sneak peek into what conference Florida State is going to be in if they do, in fact, get out of the ACC. So let's talk about Project Osceola. Again, I'm going to do a screen share here. By the way, guys, I'm hoping once I'm through with this monologue here that I'll be able to do a quick call-in show. I don't do those very often, but I'm going to try to do one here in short time, if you guys are interested. But anyway, let me pull this article up here. Yep, Project Osceola. Share. Okay, here we go. All right. So I'm not going to read this whole thing. It's long. But basically, here are the important details you need to know. Project Osceola Investor Materials. This is by Matt Baker over at Tampa Bay Times. I'll leave a link in the description box. After the sports business website Sportico first reported FSU's private equity talks in August, the Tampa Bay Times requested public records from the Seminoles. The Times received more than 2,500 pages last week. Now, there's a lot of redactions in here, okay? So keep that in mind. They obviously can't divulge everything. But it says the best how it might work. The best explanation comes in a September 22 email from Ken Arton, a public finance attorney at the firm Bryant Miller Olive. State agencies, he wrote, generally can't become a joint venture partner, equity partner, and anything that looks like that with a for-profit company. But there's a workaround, which he called a super license agreement. FSU can move its intellectual property, like logos and names, to a new university entity. That new entity could license the intellectual property to someone else, like a private equity firm. The firm would then try to profit off that licensed material by using it better, more efficiently, or in new ways. Within 6 months, that proposed nonprofit entity had a name, FSU NewCo. The specific intellectual property available from FSU NewCo is redacted. JP Morgan Chase, we know JP Morgan Chase and FSU started talks in August, or at least they signed a non-disclosure agreement in August. I think they had actually been talking before that to work on a deal with outside investors. The two companies that they talked to were Arctos, whose sports portfolio includes a share of the Lightning and Red Sox, and the other was Sixth Street, which has a stake in the San Antonio Spurs and the sports entertainment company Legends Hospitality. Now, a lot of the stuff's redacted, but here's a few peeks at it. The financial terms were mostly redacted. There were two scenarios that had a $250 million in private equity. There was a second set of numbers that they called the ACC upside model in January 23, where there was $75 million and then another $50 million. Then there was a follow-up equity. Then 4 years, by 2032, it projects FSU's 2032 cash flow to be $197 million, $46 million more than the no investment scenario. That is if they're still in the ACC. Now, all right, how FSU would use money? It's unclear. Arctos and Sixth Street both wanted a more concrete answer in March. As FSU considered $250 million scenarios, Athletic Director Michael Alford and his school financial administrator, Michael Williams, wanted the money up front for capital projects. JP Morgan's Todd Smith responded that FSU will owe investors a return on that. So collecting it all up front, if we don't have immediate need or use, will cost something. Paying off debt would make it easier to divvy up revenue between investors and Florida State University. According to discussion materials from September 22, FSU has since approved $265 million in additional debt to renovate Doak Campbell Stadium. So right there is where they could use some of the money. Here's where it gets interesting. Here is what Greg Flugar would call the money shot here, probably, or at least one of them. But it's a key part of this article. This is the interesting stuff. Additional operating expenses were also mentioned, and a June discussion included an initial purchase and, quote, general basket of money FSU could use on anything. Then it asks, could private equity fund FSU's ACC exit? FSU redacted or withheld records as the school and conference litigate the Seminoles' potential $500 million exit from the league. But FSU's ACC future pops out of bars of black. One review featured a general basket and unexplained, quote, conference basket. One of the next steps listed in October 22 was to determine use of proceeds, especially in a no realignment scenario. So basically, if there's no realignment, if they stay in the ACC, that was one scenario. By January 2023, they had a leave ACC budget model built in there. Its commentary is partially redacted, but conference payouts spiked from $43 million in 25 to $96.4 million the next year. Folks, let me tell you, if they were still in the ACC, their payout is not going to spike from $43 million to $96.4 million in 1 year. That's not happening. But guess what conference? they could be in and make potentially $96.4 million in 1 year. The Big Ten. The Big Ten is the highest money-making conference right now based on their television deal. They're close to that $100 million mark, $96.4 million. That is what they would project to make from 2025 to 2026. Now, that might make it say, well, they plan on being in the Big Ten by 2026. But one caller into the Greg Flugar show made a great point. You get the money you get in 26 is based off what you earn in 25. So maybe that means they plan on being in the Big Ten by 2025. I don't know. It'll be interesting. That's just one theory. But this is interesting stuff here. Little bit of peek into what they're looking at here. Little hint. He says football ticket revenue for home games jumps too. Again, it's 26 projections are 18.6 million, 3.2 million more than the base case, in part because of post ACC exit ticket prices in line with peers. And that's a quote. They would be making more money on ticket prices if they're in the Big Ten. Greg Flugar confirmed that. He's a fan of a Big Ten team. He knows what ticket prices are to Big Ten games. They would make more. They would charge more for game tickets in the Big Ten. So that is, now it goes on to talk about other things I'm not going to get into. I don't want to bore you guys to death, but man, that right there were the two nuggets that I thought was really, really key. The fact that they have a basket of money or a scenario that says, leave ACC model, a general basket of money and a conference basket of money. I mean, those are telling hints to me. And then also the fact that they have a projection that shows their payout going from $43 million, which is about what they would make in the ACC when you count all in, which means, CFP money, NCAA money, everything, all the way up to $96.4 million. And again, they're not getting that in the ACC. That's Big Ten money right there, folks. That's Big Ten money. I don't think the SEC is even making $96.4 million a year. So we've heard rumors that that's the conference that is really eyeing FSU, and that's where FSU seems the most likely to land. And this, I think, kind of gives us a hint to that as well. So anyway, I thought that was very interesting stuff. I did have there's been a lot of other news around college football out there. I had planned to talk about all these scenarios. One interesting thing that I haven't heard anybody talk about that I wanted to bring up, and it kind of goes back to this whole breakaway thing where the power conferences could break away from the NCAA, or maybe where they do their own thing, form their own league or whatever. And it could be the Power 2. They could break away as well. I've talked about that around here on my show, on my channel. But could we actually see teams or could we see conferences trade teams? And I had actually wondered about this myself. And I saw a tweet today by, I think it was Reddit College Football, put out a tweet saying, what would you guys think about this? And it had basically Stanford, Cal, and SMU going to the Big 12, West Virginia, Cincinnati, and UCF going to the ACC. Basically had them just trading schools. Obviously, most Big 12 fans don't like that idea. We would prefer to stay in the Big 12. But it was. I just thought it was a really cool exercise that he thought of. Well, then I see a tweet from Dennis Dodd I think it was from earlier today or maybe even yesterday. Let me see if I can pull it up here as we're talking. I think I'm almost there. Okay, here we go. This is from Dennis Dodd. This is yesterday. This live is on February 6th. This was February 5th. He tweets out, been hearing a lot of re-regionalization of Olympic sports to address travel concerns in ACC and Big Ten. Those leagues and media partners wanted all sports because of inventory for their networks. It's not easy or possible, frankly, to unwind. Get used to frequent flyer points. So, been hearing a lot about re-regionalization of Olympic sports. So, Olympic sports, non-revenue sports, basically could reorganize and be in a different conference maybe than what their football and even basketball teams are in. It's kind of the way I read that. That's what Dennis Dodd said he's been hearing about a lot. Now, we've heard rumblings of that. I I think I've even heard West Virginia AD Ren Baker be asked about that. He said he would be on board with something like that in the future potentially. They do want to cut down on travel. The travel for these non-revenue sports is intense being in the Big 12. It's going to be even worse for schools like USC and UCLA and Oregon and Washington and Stanford and Cal. It's going to be even worse for schools like that. So it is a concern, especially for these teams that aren't making revenue and that have to travel in uncomfortable ways. These teams on these non-revenue sports, they're not flying charter jets. They're not flying first class, like the football team and the basketball team are. So, that has to be taken into consideration. But I thought that was an interesting tweet by Dennis Dodd. And again, that kind of goes back into the conversation where the three networks are doing their own thing here with this new streaming service. Will these three networks work together to reorganize conferences to where they make sense? Not only, and the conferences would be part of it as well, but will they reorganize each other to a degree? I mean, obviously they want certain schools to be in for various reasons, sometimes other than just sports, especially with the Big Ten and ACC with their academics and the stuff they look at there. But would they want to reorganize some of these things to make travel make more sense? And they're still going to have these teams on that streaming service that they all own a part of. So I just find it very interesting to see. I think this joint venture here between ESPN, Fox, and Warner Brothers could completely change the game in the future of college athletics. It could change conference realignment and how it's looked at. It could change where teams go. It could change the value of, the media dollars for these conferences could go down now because there's not a bidding war taking place. I mean, it's a very interesting story. Now, obviously, there's a lot more to unravel. We don't know a lot of the details yet. That's still to come. But, man, I think this is really big news for college sports and for us fans. And it'll be interesting to see how it all unwinds. Obviously, we had the Dartmouth case where the National Labor Relations Board ordered, or at least our regional National Labor Relations Board ordered that, or district, I don't know the correct word, but they ordered that Dartmouth basketball players can unionize and collectively bargain with the university. Now, I think it's my understanding that has to go to the national level for the National Labor Relations Board. We'll see how they rule. And there would also have to be a union vote. How would the union vote go? It's yet to be determined. But if it happens at Dartmouth, at a school that doesn't even give scholarships. Oh, and I read today, too, and I don't remember who put this out, but apparently the Ivy League has already formed an Ivy League Players Association. So, here it is. Dennis Dodd put this out, too. The Ivy League Players Association has formed in wake of Dartmouth unionization. No matter what happens from this point, his prediction, we will quickly see at Big 12 Conference, at SEC, at Sunbelt, et cetera, players associations. So you're going to start seeing unionization of these conferences. The players in these conferences are going to unionize. It's coming. It's coming. And I'll be honest with you. A lot of people don't like it, okay? They think it's the ruination of college sports. I actually think it's a good thing, and let me explain why. Here's why unionization and college athletes being employees are a good thing. Right now, college athletes can transfer pretty much whenever they want to. They can make as much NIL money as they want to. They can get tampered with. They can transfer right after a season. They can transfer 3 or 4 times unannounced. It's pure chaos. Coaches can't build rosters. Fans can't get accustomed to the players they're cheering for being on their teams. It's professional sports with no contracts and no boundaries, no guardrails. If a player is an employee, the school is controlling the money and not some NIL collective or whatever. Now, I'm not saying NIL collectives need to go away. I do think players should also have the opportunity to make money outside of just the school. But I also think that the school should also have a say in it and should be able to pay them as well. But if they can collectively bargain, that means there'll be contracts. If there are contracts, that means the school can make them commit to that contract, whether it be a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever. And if you break that contract, just like if a coach leaves the school, he has to pay a buyout. If a player leaves the school, guess what? You have to pay a buyout. You have to pay part of that NIL money back. Whatever money you make from being a player, you have to pay it back. Maybe you have to pay your scholarship money back. There's a lot of different ways you can write the contracts up. But I actually think unionization, collective bargaining, employment status for student athletes is the way to go to control the chaos in college sports. Here's the only downside, and it's a big one. A lot of schools won't be able to afford to do it, and they might have to drop sports programs, non-revenue sports primarily. They might have to drop gymnastics or swimming or diving or rifle. I use that because that's what West Virginia is known for. They might have to cut some of these sports out that aren't making money and they're actually costing money to run. Remember, the revenue from football and basketball goes to pay for all the other sports too. But if you're having to use that money to pay your athletes, there's no money left to pay for the other sports, right? So that could happen. And that is not something I want to see. But guys, I'm telling you, something has to be done to control all the just endless player movement. I mean, you've got coaches, high level coaches, trying to get out of college football because it's so it sucks anymore to be a coach. They don't get to coach. They spend all their time managing rosters, trying to retain talent, dealing with NIL stuff, all of the crap that they didn't sign up for. They want to coach football. They don't want to deal with all this minutia. In the NFL, they don't have to. They can go coach. They have GMs and other people to take care of all. They don't have to deal with NIL. The players are getting paid anyway. But all the player acquisitions and all that, that's the GM's job. It's not the coach's job. So they can just go coach football, what they love to do. And you don't want to see all these top. I mean, Chip Kelly is looking to leave UCLA and potentially for a coordinator job in the NFL. That's kind of that's almost, I would say that's probably a demotion. He's willing to take a demotion because he's so tired of dealing with all this crap. We saw the Boston College coach leave, take a defensive coordinator job in the NFL. Nick Saban retired. I don't know that Nick Saban would have retired as early had all this crap not been going on. I mean, look at college basketball, Roy Williams. Now, Roy Williams was up in age, but he might have had a few years left in him. And he said point blank, I didn't like the way college sports was heading. It's not what I signed up for. I didn't want to deal with it. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but that's pretty much why he retired when he did. So I actually think the unionization of student athletes is the right way to go. End all these crazy lawsuits. It might make the NCAA, I don't know if it would completely go away, but it would definitely straighten them out. Make them do things the way they are supposed to do them with some fairness and some transparency instead of just this willy-nilly decision-making that they do all the time. But, yeah. Now, there was also an article that came out today giving us a little bit more insight into the relationship between the Big Ten and the SEC. I was going to get into that a little bit. Basically, in a nutshell, nobody liked Kevin Warren. Greg Sankey didn't like he stabbed the Pac-12 in the back, formed an alliance with them in the ACC, all the while knowing he was trying to get you. He wanted USC and UCLA in the Big Ten. Knew that going into the alliance and took them. He screwed up the whole COVID thing. During the 2020 season, he come out and basically they were on a conference call. All the commissioners were on a conference call together. Kevin Warren gets on the phone and basically, in a nutshell, says the Big Ten's going to lead here and leaves the call and goes and cancels the season. Just with no communication. They were all trying to work together on a plan. He says, we're going to do our own thing. That is really what pissed Greg Sankey off and made Greg Sankey not trust the guy. Then he did the alliance thing. And he didn't want anything to do. He didn't want to deal with Kevin Warren, basically. Now, lo and behold, Kevin Warren gets a call to be the Chicago Bears president or whatever. He leaves. They bring Tony Petitti in. He and Greg Sankey, like this, really close. At least that's the way, from what it seems. I mean, they're forming this joint task force. That joint task force wouldn't be formed, and I don't think we would be seeing a Power 2 forming this quickly anyway if Kevin Warren was still the commissioner of the Big Ten. So I thought CW was owned. Now, it could be changed, Thomas Hero, but I was thinking the CW was owned by NBC. But I could be wrong. That may have been before. They may have sold the CW to Warner Brothers. I apologize. And I could, like I said, thanks for correcting me on that, man. I could be totally wrong. But CW wasn't mentioned as one of the channels that are going to be shown as part of this network or this new streaming service, rather. But they still may own them. I don't know. Hillbilly, a channel member, says he's been a member for 4 months. Thank you, Hillbilly. Much appreciated. I don't have a sound machine. I actually did buy one, debating on whether I want to actually use it or not. You guys let me know in the chat. Would you guys like to see me add sound effects and stuff to my live streams, or just keep doing what I'm doing? But anyway, he says, need to start treating these kids like adults, sign contracts. Bam. Look, I have no issue with them making money, but they need to be held accountable. And the way you do that is make them sign a contract, just like the coaches do, just like anybody really in any professional career. You sign some form of a contract, right? Employment contract, something. But yeah, thank you again, Hillbilly, for your membership, man. And Hillbilly, if you missed it, sign a deal. Sign a deal. Listen at me. I have a special offer for my VIP members, Hillbilly, which obviously includes you. You get a discounted rate over at West Virginia Sports Now is the Holler, which is their VIP section over on their site. I will provide you with a coupon code. You put that coupon code in when you sign up for the Holler. You get a 40% discount on a membership to the Holler. The coupon code is in, I posted it earlier today, in the community tab for all channel members. So if you're a VIP channel member at Couz's Corner, you can see that code. Go to the Holler, go to westvirginiasportsnow.com, go to the Holler, sign up, put that code in, you'll get a discount. 40% discount. Instead of paying $34.99 for a 1-year membership, you get it for $21. They interviewed Steve Slayton, is my understanding, recently on the Holler. You'll get access to that and all other behind-the-scenes stuff that they post there for their members. And that's only available, at least right now, it's only available. That discount's only available through Couz's Corner VIP members. Let's see. Just check Couz CW was originally named for CBS Warner Brothers. They each owned half, but they sold 75% to Nexstar and now only own 12.5% each. Okay, interesting. Interesting. Thanks for sharing that. I think at one time, when the CW first started, when it first became a network, I think NBC owned them maybe. But I could be wrong. They've probably changed hands a couple times. Jeff Ruff, watching on Twitter, he says, what does a P2 look like? The leftovers will be their recruiting base. Yeah, that's what worries me, man. That's what people like us West Virginia fans are concerned about. I mean, especially if they don't, like I mentioned earlier, if they don't start making these guys sign contracts and make them employees, then that's what's going to keep happening, especially now that it's a free-for-all in the portal, thanks to partially to us, unfortunately. The players can transfer as many times as they want to with no limits. UPS in the house. I don't know who Matt B is, but UPS, if you're sending your family a love package or mailing a letter to a friend, consider UPS to take care of your things. UPS, how about throwing me some money for that sponsorship? Anyway, now thanks for being in the chat. Stephen Bibb says 3 guys mentioned 2-year contracts. Interesting. Yeah, I think something, 2-year, 1 year, whatever. I think that needs to be agreed upon going in. When a player signs his national letter of intent, that they also sign an employment contract as well, saying I will be here for 1 year, 2 years, 4 years, whatever they want to do. But at least the coach knows, hey, I've got X number of guys that are only going to be here for a year. I've got X number of guys that are here for 2 years. I got X number that are here for 4 years, and they can manage their roster accordingly. Right now, they have no friggin' idea. It's a crapshoot. It's like closing your eyes and throwing darts at a dartboard. And you just hope and pray guys don't leave. You do everything you can to keep them, hope and pray they don't leave. I mean, that's all you can do, especially programs like West Virginia. But that's not, Jeff, back to your comment, Alabama lost, let me go back. Alabama lost their coach, but there have been a lot of the blue blood teams too that have lost a lot of guys in the portal. So it's not just, the quote unquote tier 2 teams. But I will say this, the guys they lose are typically backups or, guys that don't play a lot. And then they come to schools like West Virginia and become a star, or whatever. Almost Hero says it was UPN before the CW. Maybe NBC was the parent company. That network has had any problems. Haha. Yeah, and it may not have been owned by NBC. I just always thought that. But anyway, I do appreciate that nugget of information because I wasn't sure who CW was owned by. But yeah, any of you guys want to get on here and chat? Got a few more minutes left. I'll open the lines up. I'll put a link to the show in the chat. Well, it's not letting me. There we go. Link's coming. You see that link if you want to join the show. Come on, and we can chat it up for a minute. If not, then we'll just call it a night. Because I don't really have anything else to talk about unless you guys want to talk about something. PA Mountaineer says, why didn't WU apply to the Big Ten after the Big East dissolved? I'm sure they probably did, PA Mountaineer. I mean, I don't know for sure, but the Big Ten has such stringent academic requirements. I don't want to say requirements, but standards or what they want, what they're looking for in their schools, that West Virginia would never meet that. It's unfortunate, but that's just the truth. They're looking for a certain type of school. West Virginia doesn't fit that. To be honest with you, Oregon doesn't really either, but Oregon is at least, I think, an AAU institution, which helps. John Kelly says the guy that does Northern football really likes us, Pitt and Virginia Tech. He does. And that's actually a really cool concept for a channel. Channel called Kings of the North. I had one of their guys on my show the other day. They focus only on college football teams in the northern part of the United States because they get so tired of hearing about the SEC and the teams in the South. They don't feel like the teams in the northern part of the country get enough coverage. So they basically take and draw a horizontal line across the United States, and any team that's above it, they're part of their channel. Right now, there's 26 teams. There are a few that are kind of on the Virginia Tech's one of the teams they have kind of on the cusp as to whether or not they consider them part of the North or not. But yeah, they do. They actually Doug, who I had on my show, actually picked West Virginia to make the college football playoff next year. Silas says, I'm excited for the streaming option to get all WU games on one package. I haven't had cable or satellite for years. Yeah, a lot of people have cut the cord. Like I said, I was going to cut the cord, but I have a bundle with my cable company where I also get my internet through them. And if I drop my cable, they were going to raise my internet bill. My internet alone was going to cost me more than my cable and internet combined do now. That's how much they were going to raise it. And I was like, well, that would be stupid. So I just instead of dropping, I just cut back to basic cable. Of course, then later on, I ended up adding the sports package so I could get ESPNU and ESPN2 or ESPN News or whatever. But yeah, I cut down to just basic cable in the sports package. PA Mountaineer says, are you on Instagram? I am. I don't get on there a whole lot. I actually have an intern managing that for me, but I do get on there and comment occasionally. Homeless Hero says, I would have rather had WU in the Big Ten rather than Rutgers or Maryland. I appreciate that. I see you're an Ohio State fan, Homeless Hero. I just now saw that on your profile pic. Tim Bell says there's already an app that lets you stream NFL, NBA, college football, NHL, etc. It's called Dufo Sports Livestream. It's free. You have an ad you add your handle at the start, but free. Interesting. John Kelly, I didn't know that, Tim. Thanks for sharing that with everybody. Huh. What networks can you stream on? Is it all of them or just certain ones, Tim? Like when you say college football, is it college football games on ESPN, on Fox, on CBS? Is it all of them or is it just certain ones? And how in the world can they afford to do that? I guess they have advertisers or whatever. That's interesting. I mean, YouTube TV's doing basically the same thing, right? Except I don't think it's free. John Kelly says, I was going to say Rutgers, Northwestern are the two luckiest teams in the world. Who watches Maryland football? Good question. Doug and Bill Landis do good work. Yeah, they do. I found their channel by accident. How did I find it now? I can't remember how I found it, to be honest. But I just ran across their channel. And I thought, man, these guys are good. And then I saw the episode about Garrett Green, and I was like, man, they got Garrett Green pretty high on their list of quarterbacks. They were giving him some love. And then I asked Doug to come on the show and chat it up a little bit. Hillbilly, channel member here at Couz's Corner, VIP member, says, Couz, you've been paying attention to the Fed messing with our fishing? I have not, Hillbilly. I need to dig into that, man. I get so busy with this that I'm not able to keep up with all the news and stuff, which, to be honest, is one of the reasons I'm doing this anyway. The news usually stresses me out, so I don't even like to think about it too much. But I do need to keep up with what's going on, especially here now that we're around election time. But Curtis D says WU women win 82. Oh, man, I forgot about that game being on, man. Dag nabbit. I wanted to watch that. Winning 82. Man, that's awesome. West Virginia women are kicking absolute butt. Mike King says you're giving them the ability to go on strike. Probably not a good thing. I understand, Mike, but how else do you solve this problem? I don't know how you solve it. I really don't. Yes, do for all sports. But it also gives the schools the ability to hold these kids to a contract and a commitment so they can manage their roster. I mean, there's going to be balance. You got to have some balance. Right now, the players can pretty much do whatever they want. And that is total chaos for coaches and programs. Tim says he hasn't missed a Mountaineer game in 2 years, all channels. Interesting. I'm going to have to check that out. Trout have still been stocked here in the mountains, Shaver's Fork. Doug will also do a show called Kings of Columbus, folks, in Ohio State. Interesting. Yeah, I knew they had a show called The Podcast or whatever as well, right? That talks about Ohio State, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe they need somebody to be Kings of Morgantown. I know a guy who might be able to do that for them, do that show for them. Anyway, he says, why do universities who invented the internet, this is Friction Hitch, by the way, says, why do universities who invented the internet need these networks to run a streaming service? Pac-12 was right, but it was too early. Well, we thought it was too early, but it ended up maybe it wasn't too early. I mean, the deal wouldn't have started. The Apple deal wouldn't have started. Remember, it wouldn't have actually started, I think, until 25 or 26, Friction Hitch. Right? Well, this new streaming service that ESPN, Fox, and Warner Brothers are doing is starting fall of this year. So it actually wouldn't have been too early. I bet the Pac-12 I bet they feel like idiots now, to be honest with you. And let's not kid ourselves. Folks like myself, I used to get on here all the time and say, yeah, you've got to have linear. You've got to have linear. You've got to have linear. Well, maybe you didn't need linear. You know, maybe you didn't need linear. I don't know. Maybe you still do, but I'm telling you, man, because linear, they're going to be streaming linear networks onto this service. I get it. But again, if you've got this service, you don't need the linear, right? You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, man. It's interesting. John Kelly says, I think if they truly go pro and do mega conferences, WVU might make an extended Big Ten or SEC if they go to 24. John, I agree. Actually thinking about doing a video on that, man. I've got to put it together in my head. I don't want to spoil too much. I'm not going to say a lot, but I do have a video planned. And for you West Virginia fans out there, I haven't done a whole lot of West Virginia content lately because there just hasn't been much to talk about, to be honest. But I do have some stuff I'm planning to do that's West Virginia specific. So for you West Virginia fans, I'm not abandoning my team. There just hasn't been a whole lot to talk about. I'm not huge on recruiting, but I do have a recruiting video I think I'm going to do on a specific player. Again, I'm not going to give it away. But plus I might change my mind and I don't want to commit to something and then not do it. But I've got a couple ideas in mind that are West Virginia specific that I'll probably do here in the next few days. So I'm not giving up on my team. There's just not been a lot. And there's been so much news coming out revolving realignment, college football and all that, I've just been focusing on that right now. What position will Hudson's brother be? That's actually a great question. And that's actually one of the videos I'm planning to do, believe it or not, is about that. So I don't know. Probably I'm hearing defense is going to be the focus there, but I need to do some more research on that and maybe ask a few more people. Paul actually talked about that a little bit on. He actually did a show earlier tonight before I came on about C.J. Donaldson committing Country Roads Trust for next season, and Jacoby Spells as well. I actually am going to plug that. Go check it after this show's over, which will be here in just a minute. If nobody wants, again, guys, I posted the link if you guys want to come on and talk with me, but nobody took me up on it. I'll post it one more time. If nobody wants to come on, that's cool. But if you do, there's the link. But anyway, go check Paul's show out where he talked about C.J. Donaldson committing to Country Roads Trucks for next season and Jacoby Spells, and that did get brought up in the show. So go check that out if you want. How many schools have their own TV station already? At least 3 in my state. I think West Virginia has one. It's not where I lived in the southern part of the state, but I think they do have one maybe around Morgantown. I'm not 100% sure. If there's somebody in the chat that lives up that way that may know, let me know in the chat box. Or if you're watching this on the replay, you can let me know as well. Thank you, Stephen. I appreciate it. Curtis said he heard he was going to play safety. John says ESPN talked him into adding Mizzou and not us. We were originally the first choice, so they say he's talking about the SEC, and I heard the same thing. But it's not I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that we still end up in the SEC. I just think it's a lot of things are going to fall a certain way for that to happen. I think it's a long shot probably, but I do think it's possible. For us, to be honest with you, for West Virginia, I mean, obviously the Big 12's been good to us. But if we ever want to get the quote-unquote big boy money, we're going to need as much chaos as possible, to be honest. And I'm not sure that's good for the sport, so I'm kind of torn on that. But anyway, all right, guys. Well, listen, I appreciate you guys hopping on here with me tonight to do this quick live stream. Appreciate all your support. Don't forget something I did forget to advertise: the ONIT NL trading cards that I'm an affiliate for. There'll be a link in the description box where you can purchase ONIT athlete trading cards. 60% of the profits go to your favorite student athletes. I'll make a small commission if you use that link. The cards are really, really cool. I actually bought a few packs myself. I actually did an opening on a show. I plan on doing another show like that where I unbox, as they say, or unpack a pack of ONIT athlete trading cards. But go check that link out in the description. I got somebody jumping on here. I got Mr. Tim Bells in the house.
How you doing, buddy?
Tim? I'm doing great. Thank you for hopping on.
Yeah, I just wanted to give you a little heads up on that DoFu Sports stream. When you use it, an ad will pop up at the beginning. Don't click on the ad. That'll send you over to their site. There'll be a little bar at the top. It'll say Live DoFu. Just click on that bar, and then it'll say Allow Stream, and you click Yes, and it'll take you straight to the game every time.
Awesome. And it's called DoFu?
DoFu Sports. Yeah, it's on Android and iPad.
Interesting. Well, I appreciate you giving us a heads up on that. What do you while I got you on here, man, what do you think about all this craziness going on in college sports?
Let me mute this. I got the stream going over here.
Okay.
I'm sorry. What was the question?
What is the what are your thoughts on everything, all the craziness going on in college sports right now?
Oh man, I don't know. I mean, I love it and I hate it, and my head hurts most time trying to think about it. And I'm glad I'm not a streamer trying to figure it all out.
I hear you, brother. I hear you. Yes, I'm like you. I love it and I hate it. It's good content, but it's also it's it's not the sport we loved anymore.
Amen, brother. Amen. Yeah, I just know that if these power twos try this power play that everybody's afraid they're going to do, they're going to lose half the country. I mean, it's not going to be good for college football. So I just hope people step back and take a think and say, you know what, by excluding people, you're going to lose. I personally would never watch a SEC or a Big Ten game if the Mountaineers were excluded from any kind of playoffs. They could forget it, and I'm sure there's a whole lot of people out there just like me.
Well, I don't know if you're familiar with a YouTuber named Numbskull News, but he's also a Big 12 guy, and he did a show the other day, and he basically said, "Look, man," he said, "let them do what they want to do. Screw them. We'll do our own thing. Yeah. Let them do their own thing. And you know what? I'm not going to watch them anyway. I'm going to watch Big 12 games.
Yeah,
And
I'm with him. I love
I mean,
Numbskull. Yeah, I do.
yeah, I mean,
I watch him all the
he's a,
time.
yeah, he's a great I actually had him. I'm gonna do a little plug, but Paul and I have a basketball channel called Hoops from the Hills. Most of you probably know
Love it.
about it.
Watch it all the time.
We had Numbskull on there as a guest the other day talking about realignment with the Big East. He thinks the Big 12 should merge with the Big East in basketball.
Yeah.
And I went on there. To debate him, and ended up agreeing with him by the end of the show because he had some really good points. And
Even the ACC, if they could do a scheduling alliance with, you got Duke, you got North Carolina State, Virginia. I mean, the SEC and the Big Ten would be out of basketball permanently if they tried something silly.
yeah, and you got to you would have to respect us and keep our seat at the table if we've got Villanova, Georgetown, St. John's, UConn,
Exactly.
Creighton.
I mean, the
Go get
SEC and the Big
Gonzaga.
Ten, while they're all football, they bring nothing to the basketball table.
Right. Kentucky, mainly, basically. I mean, you got
Yeah,
Kentucky,
Kentucky,
and that's it. I mean, ACC's got Duke and UNC.
UCLA every couple years.
Right, right, and they're not even what they used to be.
Exactly.
So,
Agreed.
yeah, absolutely. But well, man, I appreciate you hopping on here, and appreciate
Yeah,
the
brother. I
heads
just wanted to share that with you. Like I say, when I found out somebody turned me on to Dufu, I haven't missed a game. They play. I mean, every freaking game in the country that's being played, you can find it on there. I mean, hundreds of football games every Saturday.
Wonderful.
Dartmouth. I mean, whoever you want to watch, it's on there.
Is it available on? I'm assuming it'd be available on my computer as well, right?
I don't know. All I have is my phone, but it's on the Android app, and it's also you can get it on the iPhone app.
Right. Friction Hitch says if Couz can stream, I think universities can figure it out. Yeah, he's wanting university. He thinks universities need to create their own streaming service. It's actually not a bad idea.
Well, listen, brother, I know you're tired. You've been here a long time. I'm gonna let you go. You have a great day.
Brother. Thanks for hopping on, Tim. Take care.
All right, buddy. Take care. Bye.
Yeah, Friction Hitch, that's actually not a bad idea, my man. And you're right. If I can figure it out, I know sure as heck they can. They're a lot smarter than me, man. I'm not great with technology anyway. So John Kelly says college basketball would be reeling without the Big 12 at the same tier as Bama and Ohio State. Definitely football money driving the Power 2 stuff. Yes, John, you're right. But that's how, we're never going to catch – Big 12's never going to catch the SEC and Big 10, but they can at least get closer to them if they lean on the basketball a little more. But anyway, you guys go check out that show I did with – the Mountaineer Paul and I did with Numbskull News over on the Hoops from the Hills channel. Very, very good stuff. I think you'll find it interesting. The way Numbskull wants to merge the Big East and the Big 12 in basketball, and the way he wants to do it, and the logistics of it, and the voting rights and the money and everything. He's got at least a general idea of how it could work. So very interesting stuff. But guys, I've been on here over an hour. It's time for me to hop off of here. I really thank you guys for coming on. Thanks for all the support. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to check out the ONIT Athlete trading cards in the description. Don't forget my website, guys, Couz'sCorner.com. A lot of great blog articles over there by myself and a few other writers that are over on the site working with me. And again, check out Hoops from the Hills if you want to hear about West Virginia hoops. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Have a top shelf day, and cue country roads.